Welcome everyone to the show. Number 11.
Episode 11.
It's like you're making progress every day that you have a new show. You know,
fast. It's going fast.
It's going fast.
Crazy.
Yeah, we'll be at so in order for us to get to 100, what do we need? 5 days a week. We need another 50 weeks, 40 weeks. There you go.
Attainable.
Half a year. Think you can make it?
Think you can make it?
That's probably a better question. You're right.
I guess we'll find out.
Well, the key will be when college football ends.
Yes.
We just go right into recruiting. That's no problem.
Recruiting. Listen, we got a ton of spring football. I posted today about the plans for every FCS program for the spring. So on my Twitter page, it was a pretty good read seeing what, Patriot League and Ivy League and, the Big North, the Big South and all that stuff with everything they have planned for. It's pretty interesting. Some of the leagues are going in one direction, some in another. So it should be an interesting spring to say the least.
Well, that's good. And I guess how they run the spring is going to remain to be seen. But that's putting the cart before the horse. We had a huge weekend of football.
Crazy weekend.
Huge, crazy weekend of football. So let's get into that. Let's start with local.
Yeah.
Let's start local. Huge win for the Scarlet Knights.
Big win for RU.
Overtime. And what I really like about the game was, they preached the chop, and that's what they did. And there were so many instances when it looked like they were done, and they just kept coming back and coming back. And, when Maryland hit the long pass that made it look easy, and I was like, oh, man, they're scoring fairly easily here. But then they just came right back. And I it's a tribute to what they're doing. They're on the way there. As they get more and more players in, they will get there. That you can begin to see. The next question becomes, how long do they keep Coach Gleason before someone snatches him up? So, because offensively, it's interesting because I wouldn't say that they have a true identity offensively, but they basically just use the personnel they have to the best of the ability, which is one of the things that's the big thing in college, and one of the things that I think is really great about offenses now is you're seeing a trend more on package-based programming than it is system-based programming. So what I mean is, let's say a group of players are in, we're running these 5 or 6 plays between runs, passes, play action, screen, RPOs. These are the 5 or 6 plays we run when these people are in. And then you have set-based packaging where we're in this set and this is what we're going to do. These are the 4 or 5 plays. And it becomes very difficult. And you see it with Alabama, they do the same thing. And so you're kind of, every time a new group comes in or a new set comes in, and you have to be prepared for that. And I think Rutgers did a pretty good job of that with the quarterback going down early on, and playing both Arthur and Johnny Langan. And obviously, a tribute as well to the Maryland third-string quarterback, who's a walk-on, came and played great for them. So it was just a great game. Rutgers pulled it out in the end, and I think it's one of those things they just stuck to their plan better, and didn't get penalties, and that ended up winning for them.
I think it's a huge win for the program in general. I think it's like I said, I think it's what we would call a program win over a team that's, Maryland is kind of right in our backyard. So I think that's a big thing. Like you said, it wasn't anything pretty by any means, but it showed that the culture is in place and it's going to continue to grow as far as the way they won the game with, just continuing the process, didn't allow big plays or negative plays to affect them. They just kind of kept rolling with it. I liked what you said about the packages and the system type of thing is like they're utilizing what they have right now. They know what they're going to need or what they would want in certain players in the future. That'll come down to recruiting and going forward. But they're doing a hell of a job right now with what they have to work with. But like you said, man, I think it's going to be tough to keep Gleason. He's an offensive mastermind and he's young, upcoming. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be tough to keep him. But if he wants to stay, man, and ride this thing out, I think it could be pretty good for RU.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be there for a little while, but you'll start to if they keep. Obviously, if they keep progressing the way that they are, we're assuming that they're going to keep progressing the way they are, which all signs indicate that that's going to be the case. Then, each year, probably maybe not this year, but next year, you're going to start to, is he going? People will start to pursue somebody. So,
I mean, he's on the Briles award list already. You know what I mean? As one of the top assistants in the country. So he's got it there. It's just a matter of, what's going to happen going forward.
Right. And I remember Shiano when he came in, when he spoke with all the high school coaches. This was right before COVID. I saw him speak 2 or 3 times at clinic. Definitely 2 times at clinics. Maybe I saw him speak a 3rd time. Anyway, at the AFCA meeting. I mean NJFCA meeting. So the theme kept his theme kind of was like he's back here to build it for a long-term foundation, and also kind of implied that I'm not looking to be the head coach of Rutgers for the next 25 years of my career. I almost got to feel like he's going to build it so it's on strong foundation that I guess hopefully somebody internal can then take it over and ride it into the next generation. Now, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't, who knows? And always stepping away, especially if you have a successful thing, is always harder than coaches like to say that they want to do that, and then it comes to the point where time to do it, and then you think about what are you going to go do? But that was definitely the impression that I got, that his goal was to build it so they get to the unfinished business that they didn't get to last time, make it successful, make it sustainable, and then at some point, he relinquishes it to somebody. I'm assuming his goal would be somebody internal. But yeah, so I thought that was interesting, and I could see, what I love is the enthusiasm, the passion, the willing to, he's like a kid in a candy store. When they win a game, like that's, when you win a game, that's how you should feel no matter what your record is, because, right. And as a head coach, as assistants should all feel that way, but as the head coach, you got to feel that way, because winning is precious, and that's part of the joy of coaching. So. I mean, this is definitely one time we're going to be obviously in pretty much full agreement. But it was a great game to watch. It was actually a great game. Like, you see, Maryland has also some of the pieces. Like, they could get there. There are things that have to they definitely shown promise, which obviously for a long time they haven't. The question is, will they clean up the things that they need to clean up? Because there's definitely ability there. And my guess is Loxley's going to get some really good players because he's very connected to the Southern Maryland, D.C. area.
Right, which is a major recruiting bet and a major hotbed for high school football, man. I mean, it's really kind of a sleeping giant. Some of the teams they have down there, the kids, I mean, they can just play ball. They're coached up in a good way. I mean, it's the same thing we say about up here. If we could just keep those kids in state and keep them going to state school, it would change the dynamics of a lot of things. But I think Maryland is in a good place. But at the same time, I think Rutgers is in just as good of a place, if not better, after that win.
Yeah, I think the states that have this New Jersey, Maryland, Virginia, and North Carolina,
that area,
they have a lot of similarities within their state schools that you always get the feeling like if they could just keep the guys that they have access to in their state, they're gonna get there. And sometimes, obviously Mac Brown's doing a great job at North Carolina. When they're able to do it, they're highly successful.
Right, when they're on their own.
But it's an odd dynamic in each of those states that they support their state institution, but they all have this a wait and see approach. Right. And as that people, if Loxley can work that away, as Shiano, who already did that once, continue to work that away. There's a lot of success to be had, and I think it's already shown that Rutgers could play with everybody, even without getting all those guys yet in the next classes.
Right. They just got to learn how to win, how to finish.
Right. And they finished that game. I got to give the kicker a lot of credit.
Woo!
The Michigan game, he missed the field goal that could have won the game.
Right.
Back here in the same situation and buried it. So
he got better.
He got better, and that's also a tribute to having the right kind of approach to it.
Right.
Very cool.
To him.
All right. Next up, now I guess we'll go to the really kind of crazy game, which was Florida LSU, where Florida basically ruined an opportunity, possibly. Watching that game, a little bit of that game, I didn't watch the whole thing, but watching enough of it and some of the highlights.
If you could even see it. The fall was crazy.
I feel like Florida just thought they were going to beat LSU.
Right. They overlooked the team. They underestimated the team. They walked in there with the wrong type of swag, the wrong type of attitude. It was kind of one of those things where it looked like, they were, like you said, they were walking in there thinking, we got this. We're good. We're already in the SEC championship game. This is just, whatever. LSU's coming to our place. We'll take care of it. And then before you know it, they're in a dogfight. And they had to kind of dial it up. And then, sometimes individuals just make plays that you just don't understand what they're doing, whether they get lost in the moment, whether it's just, something that, takes over, but, a certain individual, man, can cost you, and unfortunately cost Florida not only a victory, but, a shot at the national championship.
And Kyle Trask struggled a little bit early on, actually a good amount early on, and then that's
not even been his thing, though. He struggles early, and then turns it on. They also were missing Pitt.
Yeah. So, that's also the big, even in the Maryland game, in all fairness to Maryland, they're missing their two middle linebackers.
They're missing, what's his name?
And they're missing Tungbailola. So, but you have to be in this year. I think you got to be able to kind of go with the flow and do the best you can with that.
And we've said that over and over again, right? We've said that over and over again that you have to kind of just go with the flow.
And I think credit goes to Ed Orgeron on this. A lot of credit, because after
with the process and just doing what you got to do and just, play ball. And, it's bad right now, but good things will happen as long as we do what we're supposed to do. And that's what happened.
They still can't play no D, but he definitely has the, I saw somebody say that the star player that basically opted out, for them, I can't remember the name, but I think he's an NFL guy. And then they had one other player or something that, I don't know, suspended or something. almost like an addition by subtraction. And sometimes in football, you don't know the dynamics of what's going on. And sometimes one of the better players, look, if the better players are 100% behind you and supportive of everything, obviously you're in golden shape. And that's what Alabama has all the time. But if one is not on board and you're kind of struggling to get them on board, it does bring some of the other players down potentially. And I'm not saying that this happened in the case, but there's been a little bit of talk about something like that along those lines. Now that gets worked out, they go to I think it's Matty Johnson that was quarterback, and you see alum, by the way. That's Brad Johnson's son. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's Brad Johnson's son. And he comes in. Obviously, he's got pretty good pedigree with an NFL father, and played really well. I mean, played really well, and so now they went from trying to figure out the quarterback situation to do they have he's a freshman, so do they now have a guy for quite a few years to come, and do they start building off that? Do they start saying this is our launching point for 2021, like we're playing to get ourselves ready for 2021. Right. We need positive things. And I think that's how LSU approached LSU approached the Florida game. Florida was approaching it.
The other thing, ultimately, like you said, I think they had a different approach to that game. They have internally opted to ban themselves from this year's bowl season. And so they knew that this was kind of their last game. Yeah. Oddity that they're probably their worst season, probably not going to get into a bowl anyway, but kind of self-sanctioned themselves, which is smart move on their part, I guess, but is what it is. Using the finding a loophole and playing with it and making it work, but
right.
Like I said, this was their bowl game, so they went out, they played ball, and that's just kind of how it ended up. I mean, you can't take away the fact that, they still continued to make the plays and do what they had to do to win the game. The play by, the Florida corner where, they had him stopped and ultimately he picks up an LSU player's cleat and chucks it downfield out of excitement or whatever it was, and then got the 15-yard penalty to give LSU the first down and ultimately kick the game-winning field goal. I mean, look, you can say what you want. It's a selfish move. It's a bonehead move. It's a dumb move. But at the same time, this is, you're talking about a kid playing college football who just made, they just made a huge stop on whatever down to basically end the game. And he just lost his head, man. He got lost in the moment and made a bonehead play. And, that'll stay with him forever. That's for damn sure, because not only did he lose a game, but he cost his team, probably, a possible shot at a national championship. But, like I said, it's a bonehead move. At the same time, LSU still had to continue that drive and kick the field goal to win the game. So, it is what it is, man. Good kudos to LSU and Coach Orgeron for continuing the process and doing what they had to do to get a huge win at the end of the season.
Yeah, a lot of noise, and they just can continue to play, not worry too much about it. All right, as we're moving around, we go right over to the Army-Navy game, which less of a first of all, uniforms, we talked about it before. Phenomenal. Less of a surprise in the game. I guess what the big surprise was, I think it was 3-0 in the fourth period.
Right. I think there was, Army was expected to win, and ultimately they did. But I think the fact that Navy kept it close and played hard, which is always a factor in this game. Like, I don't care who's supposed to win, who's better. It's usually just a dogfight, because there's just certain elements to that game that bring out, you're going to get the best from both teams. Ultimately, the team with the better, athletes is probably going to win, but it's still going to be a dogfight. So the fact that it was still 0-0, towards the end of the game or late in the game, just goes to show you what that game's all about.
Yeah, I mean, Army is totally – Monken has totally changed that program around, the image in that program, what they represent. What I think that Navy always did a good job of showing the personality of Navy, which I thought attracted players for a long time there. And Army was less out in front on that for many years.
Right.
And I think it hurt them in recruiting in the early 2000s. But when they got Monken in, the embracement of that uniform war, for lack of a better word, if Navy's going to have a great uniform, we're going to have a great uniform. And if Navy's going to have a message for their uniform, Army, we're going to have a better message that controls our identity as West Point and as cadets. And I think that doing that, and then their identity of running the triple option, which they both do,
and do well,
attracted better players to West Point. And that attraction of better players to West Point and finding the right guys for it has ultimately, now West Point is on top. Now they're the Army's the better team over Navy over the last 5 years. And it's so interesting to see that kind of turn, because forever it's been Navy. And before, but what is interesting is how everything goes in cycles, because for a long time it was Air Force was the better one. Then originally it was what's his name before the coach was there now, Coach Johnson came in, and then he went to Georgia Tech, but he originally first got it going in that direction, and then it carried on. But they had that for a while. Now it's shifted to Army. Army's now the top dogs of the three branches of armed forces. They're the top dogs. So it was really interesting to see how good they are. Like, they are a legit program, a top 25 program, and they do it a little bit differently. They have good speed, but they really grind things out unbelievably well, and they play unbelievable defense. So,
that's the thing too, is the defenses, man. They just fly around and they're going to pop you in the mouth. That was awesome to watch defenses like that fly around.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Now you might know the result. I didn't actually look, but I know that just from hearing everything that USC came back, correct, to beat UCLA. And
we had talked about that being a possible, big win for Chip Kelly and UCLA to kind of get over that hump and kind of whatever. And ultimately, USC comes back and takes it and wins it. And now, the developments from today is that USC was supposed to be playing Washington in the Pac-12 championship. And unfortunately, Washington has so many COVID cases that they can't, fully dress a roster of enough players for the game. So it will be USC Oregon in the Pac-12 championship.
USC Oregon, which will be great because Cristobal is Coach Cristobal is one of the guys that are on the market as we talk about the next couple.
We're gonna have to touch on that a little bit. I'll tell you that much. There's some crazy names that are coming up already.
I think Chip Kelly. This is his third year.
Third or fourth.
He's on. I think they just got to keep plugging away there at UCLA because he's gonna get there. He's so close, and not all schools are like this, but in UCLA's case, worrying about what exactly the record is versus how they're playing is not yet important. If he wins, as long as he wins these games, he should. And these, he could have beat USC. He's probably going to get a signature win at some point, and that's going to be what they'll start the catalyst off of. And then when we get to next year, if he builds off of it and has the kind of team that you probably think he will have, then we know that he's in the right place. Next year, I think, will be the telltale, because this year is the year where they've been close quite a few times, but they're just not quite finishing out some of those big games. Someone who did finish out a big game and finished off a head coach would be Arizona State.
Crazy.
Finishing off Arizona 70-7. And
70 points.
That's Herm Edwards over there. Now, they haven't played as many games either, if I'm not mistaken. Arizona.
No. They haven't. But ultimately, that 70-7 ends Kevin Sumlin's tenure at Arizona. Bye right away immediately. So, Arizona job opens. Who knows what name will go in there, but
is Arizona a hard place to win? Rich Rod couldn't get it done.
I guess so. Obviously, I mean, you think about. I look at Arizona State, and Arizona State, in my eyes, has more tradition. You can think of some guys that have come out of Arizona State and things like that. And then you look at Arizona; it's kind of never just been up to par with an Arizona State. And I think when that's like, when you have that in-state battle of two big-time Division I schools, and one is always swayed one way, I think that's a problem. And so it's got to be an issue as far as recruiting. You're probably always losing guys to Arizona State, and then if you go in there and you can't beat them, like, you're never going to be anywhere.
I wonder if so they're in two completely different areas,
right?
You have that with Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. And Oklahoma State was always like sometimes good, sometimes not. But now they've had obviously a lot of stability at the head coaching position and success, and a lot of money poured in there. I have no idea what Arizona's situation is, but I know Arizona State is in a very good area from a recruiting standpoint. Tempe, Arizona, right next to Phoenix and Scottsdale, college town that has a lot going on. It's one of the places I've been. It's funny. I've been there. I've seen it, and I could see why they can recruit well there. It's like one of those places that
the place people want to go.
If you bring people there, so the key at Arizona State and probably Arizona too. Now Arizona's in Tucson, completely different place, far away, deep, like southern Arizona, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay,
I'm assuming a lot of the players that are going to Arizona State probably also visit Arizona, and Arizona State's area, Tempe, Scottsdale, Phoenix, has been a big boom area population-wise. And
a lot of people relocating.
Yep. So I do think that there may it wasn't always that way, but in the last 10 to 15 years, there may be a lot of support that has swung that way, which maybe make it, if you have, a guy like Herm Edwards, easier to recruit, easier to attract coaches.
He's great. He's great.
Yeah. And obviously he's a big personality too.
Huge.
Yeah. So, and guys want to play for him. And I think that, those things are all going in the right direction. So, I mean, Arizona State is obviously trending on the up, and Arizona's got a lot of work to do. And I don't know enough about Arizona's not since the Desert Swarm and Teddy Bruschi have they been really that good. I mean, what is that, the mid-90s,
Easily has to be.
A couple of years here and there, but nothing stable. Arizona State has had some instability too, but they've had more better years. And I do think you get more. I do think where they are, California players may be more comfortable going there because there's a lot more. And you're obviously, no matter what anybody says, I'm sure the majority of their recruiting is going to be out of California, Southern California.
Right. That's where I would think the big draw would be.
And it's not that far either.
No.
It's like a 5-hour? So there's a lot of things that work in its favor versus Tucson, which is probably 10 hours if someone wants to go away but doesn't want to go that far away. And you got Herm Edwards only 4 hours away. Why not? Why not? You cross over and you're there. So I think that's pretty interesting. I don't know. Well, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts on the firing of Sumlin? I mean, it's interesting. This is the guy who was the head coach of Johnny Manziel, and they're on the
it's almost like he never makes it more than 2-3 years. Like he comes in hot, even so when he came out of the University of Houston, right, and he got the Texas A&M job. He had Johnny Manziel at quarterback. He had Cliff Kingsbury as an OC. He kind of burned out there. It was almost like, and I've said this before tons and tons of times, when you get fired from a job and then you immediately get another job, you don't have time to reevaluate yourself or what you did wrong in order to get fired at that other place. You know what I mean? Taking a year off. There's something about taking a year off, stepping back, looking at yourself, reevaluating the way you run your program and things like that, that ultimately, in my eyes, will make you a better head coach if you want to get back into it. Here, he kind of just jumped right into this Arizona job, whether or not it was a job he really wanted or maybe
that's a big question.
Right? Because a lot of these guys, the window is so small. The window is so small in college football that, if there's an opportunity for a job, some of these guys they understand, like, I got to get it. I need it now, because if not, it's not going to be there or nothing. And there won't be anything there for me. And pretty soon I'll be a forgotten name and never get back in the show. So some of these guys look at it like that. To me, obviously I've never been in that position. But for me, the taking a step back, reevaluating yourself, looking at the things that you do, as a program, as the leader of your program, as the CEO of your program, and kind of reevaluating those things and taking a look at it and maybe going to see some other things, how other programs are done, things like that can ultimately make you a better coach at your next job. And, Kevin Sumlin jumped right into this after Texas A&M and has struggled from the jump, and you never really saw, he never had a signature win, you just never really heard anything. He kind of got lost out there in the desert. And then, I'll tell you the one thing that stands out is a 70-7 loss. That's for damn sure. And ultimately that's what, got him canned. And we'll see where he goes from there. I'm sure he'll resurface somewhere. Hopefully he takes some time and gets better and then moves on from there.
I'm sure Nick Saban has a
spot for him.
If he needs it.
Nick Saban seems to be the savior of all head coaches fired, because if you look at, there's just so much.
He's
so many former head coaches that are on his staff that don't really have formal titles, right? They're an analyst, they're a whatever guy. All of a sudden, you just see these guys on the sideline, and you're like, what the hell? Like, oh, he works there too. Some guys have big names. Don't get me wrong. Kyle Flood, former coach of Rutgers, is his O-line guy. Steve Sarkisian, obviously, former head coach USC in Washington. He's his OC, and he's one of those. He's another name.
He's another one. He was a head coach. Nick Saban brought him in. Let's look at the staff here. First of all, his staff's always amazing, but he's got Sarkisian. He's got Kyle Flood. Those are both former head coaches. So I don't even
got another one that was an analyst that just left.
I don't even think they list the analysts on the regular.
You're looking at a guy that's the former head coach of Tennessee, not Lane Kiffin, who was a big name as his OC, who was there, but we're talking about, Butch Jones, who was the head coach of Tennessee. And now he just leaves to get, I believe, the Arkansas State job.
Loxley after he left New Mexico. Right.
Yeah. And then you look at Kirby Smart, right? You're looking at, if you really want to get crazy, you could look at Cochran, his strength coach, who is now a special teams coach at Georgia. And it's wild, man. He is like he's an assistant coach whisperer.
So listen, this is great. I had to go on the website because I'm just curious.
Mario Cristobal used to be there, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, he was. So here is who the analysts are. I'll just give you some of the bigger names on Nick Saban's staff right now. Okay, names that you would know. Nick Perry, who was a player for him. Javier Arenas, remember him? He was a player for him. Was a kick returner, I think. Nick Perry, I think, was a DB. Mike Stoops, he was the head coach at Arizona, right? I think he got.
Yep, and then he was with Oklahoma with his brother for a while.
Right, so he actually was close at Arizona. He was close.
He might have been the closest one, closer than Rich Rod.
Yep. Major Applewhite.
Major Applewhite just got another job. I believe he's going to Arkansas State as the OC. They just announced that today.
Okay, and then Charlie Strong. So Charlie Strong's on his staff right now as an analyst who's
not bad to have the former University of Texas, South Florida, University of Florida, DC under Urban Meyer. Not a bad guy to have.
Yeah, I think he covers the bases pretty darn good. So and then obviously he has Sarkisian and Flood. We talked about that earlier. So I mean, just think about the guys that he can
Rich get richer
off of. I mean,
can you imagine that meeting room?
Yeah, that's got to be pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing, and he's the king of all king.
He's like the Island of Misfit Toys over there.
It's amazing. It really is amazing. But he rehabs them. That's what it is. The rehab.
That's exactly what it is, man. It's like it's a come on in. Let's bounce some. Hey, love to have you here. Why don't you come lay low for a little while, get out of the limelight, but still stay in the game. And then when something comes up, you're good to go. Like, ridiculous. It's exactly what it is. It's a rehab on an island of amazingness.
That's pretty crazy. Along the lines of getting the boot,
this was a surprise.
Yeah, I watched a bunch of shows on things. I guess people within the SEC were not as surprised as people outside the SEC. He's one of my favorites. Gus Malzahn, after a win, goes and they fire him.
You see his buyout?
$21 million. I mean, you can't be too upset. $21 million. This guy came from being
he gets half of it by the end of the month.
Guy was a high school coach, but originally most famous for writing a book on the no huddle, and
he gets $12 million by the end of the month. Yeah, I got fired, but I'm walking away pretty.
Could he be on the Alabama rehab staff for a couple of years? I think so.
Why doesn't he just go coach high school somewhere for $5,000?
Oh my goodness, it's crazy. Due in 40 days. That's unbelievable. Thank you, Chris.
Told you, he gets it in one. Like, all right, we're gonna fire you, but just stay quiet. Here's $12,000 or here's $12 million. Just thank you very much. Appreciate it.
In 8 years, he has one of the best records of all time win-loss percentage at Auburn. Auburn is a unique place. Have you ever been to Auburn?
You're always going to be fighting with Alabama, right? As far as recruiting, as far as on the field.
Place, but it's different than Alabama.
It's SEC country, you know what I mean? It's all about football. If you don't go in there and do what you're supposed to do, you're not going to be there very long. And
what is that?
I just don't understand. I just think it's crazy.
Yeah, whoever his agent is, definitely. His agent is probably the guy who's all the agents. The agent for all of the coaches is when I was an agent, I knew who it was. I can't believe I forgot. He does all the coaches. But anyway,
some of the names that have been linked is the biggest one I see is Hugh Freeze from Liberty right now.
And Cristobal as well.
Cristobal is another one. Sarkisian is another one.
Sarkisian.
Rumors of Kiffin leaving
Mississippi to Auburn,
leaving Ole Miss and going there. That's like a crazy one.
I thought Malzahn was a pretty good fit at the time because he was a little different. He was ran a little bit of a different system, which took some time for the SEC to adapt to. It's kind of like a gun wing T-based system with a lot of QB running originally, and then that took time for people to adapt to his system. And then he was always able to get good running backs. I don't know if they had that this year. And they always had a great D-line. Always. Their D-line is loaded. I think he was a good recruiter, definitely. But good recruiting is relative, and that's what's interesting. I saw a stat that was like he was never lower than 12th in the ratings for recruiting, and was consistent around like between 6 and 8. But who's ahead of him? Alabama, Georgia, maybe Texas A&M, those kind of teams. So you got to play those teams that are ahead of you. So even though you're ahead of everybody else, you're not ahead of them. Tough spot to be in. Auburn's a tough spot. I think that they feel like I don't know if they do or they don't. I don't think they invest on the same level that Alabama does.
I don't think anyone does.
Yeah, but they want to be where Alabama is. And, you go back to the history, Bo Jackson, their head coach, Pat Dye, was a legend. And they believe that they should be in the hunt every single year. So I think that job is a difficult job because of Nick Saban being there at Alabama, expectations to be at the same level or at least close to the same level year in and year out, and losing maybe the top recruits in your state and the surrounding states to your neighbor in a lot of cases can be very, very difficult to win the games you need to, So, look, obviously someone's going to come in there. If he's good, he'll do well. But The question is, the goal is, I'm assuming, to unseat Nick Saban. That's the goal. So if their goal is to unseat Nick Saban, they're going to have to really make a hire, and they have $21 million that they're a little bit lighter to do all that.
Yeah, and I see names like Josh Heupel at UCF. I see him linked to it. Bill Napier, who's has a good record and could change some things up. But I don't know, man. I just feel like at Auburn, you got to make a big hire. You need a big name in there. You need someone who's going to make a splash, and people are going to be like, wow. Like a Lincoln Riley from Oklahoma, maybe. Something. You need something.
Gus was not a huge name, and
especially with Gene Chizik having won a national championship a few years earlier.
But he was. I knew that he would be pretty good because he runs a good system and he's innovative. And
that's the thing. He's going to use his athletes to the best of his ability, but he's going to still run his system.
Right, but could he get – he was so close. I guess, the year that was like when the kick six when they beat Alabama.
The walk-off.
And that year they beat Alabama, I think, and Georgia, who was 1-2 or something like that. It was basically a situation where they really could have gotten to that next level, but then they lost the SEC championship game, got killed in that game.
Yeah, and then it was
lost the bowl game, and he still had some good years, but that was like they were there and they just couldn't quite get over to that next level, which everyone was hoping they were at when they won games. And from that point forward, they were always so good, but they could never make that jump.
Right, the big splash.
And that's the Auburn,
and that's what those fans expect. That's what those people expect. So, you got to do it. If you don't, like you said, you'll be gone. And, it just goes to show you they don't care how much it costs. They're going to get the right person in that situation to win. Because if you're paying $21 million to get rid of somebody, you can't.
Who was good. Who was very good. So it's not
any of these programs right now that are looking for a head coach would get in the building.
You have to interview him. That's, to me, it'd be you're crazy not to interview him
unless he says straight up, "Look, I'm not going to Arizona." Right?
Well, you know what? The $21 million. Would you go? That's a bigger question. Would you go coach the next year or just wait for the right situation? Wait a couple of years. I don't know.
Depends. What's in the bank? Does money matter? Like some of these guys, money don't matter.
I think
for us to say that it's whatever, but these guys are on a whole different level, man.
He's an offense. He's kind of like a mad scientist offensively, or was thought of that way, at least in the beginning.
Right. Well, that's the appearance and how he carries himself as well. Something the way, he's got the sweater vest on, the glasses, you know what I'm saying? He's always writing something down, walking around. I mean, right. He's walking around with a clipboard, you know what I mean? Like that's what it is.
Right. I think that it's he's a high school coach and a teacher. If you really break it down, that's who he was for 20 years, right? So, but I think what's interesting is that if he wanted, whenever he's ready, he's gonna get he's gonna get a real.
Like I think, to be honest, he could be a coordinator in the NFL. He'd have to adapt his offense and change things like that. I think he could possibly do that, but. Now you're talking whole different type of systems, whole different type of game. Would his stuff adapt there? You know what I'm saying? It would be interesting to see.
Can you name the quarterback that Gus Malzahn had coming out of high school that went with him to Arkansas?
He went to USC and never did anything.
What was his name?
Oh. I can't remember his name.
He was the number one quarterback in the country. Oh, man, I can't believe I can't remember his name.
Me neither, because I watched because I watched the Mandarich.
No,
that was the lineman.
He was the head coach at Springdale High School.
Right, and this kid played for him. He was a freak.
Mitch Mustaine.
Yes. And then he went out to USC and did nothing.
He, when he was with Gus, obviously that first year at Arkansas, Gus was his coach.
Right, and then something went down.
Well, and then Mitch Mustaine, I think you're right, he did talk about it. He did some stuff that he shouldn't have done, but when, I think part of it was he was really tied to Gus Malzahn.
Right.
And Gus Malzahn, he obviously understands his system, of course, He's
been running it since he was in 8th grade.
Yeah, and then when he left, I think that kind of put Mitch Mustaine in a bad shape. But that team that he coached, which he went to Arkansas off of, had 5 guys go.
I believe that whole high school team basically he took to Arkansas.
He took him to Arkansas. Basically, that was kind of the deal. And they were a small high school team. Yeah, well, I like that statement. That's a pretty good statement. Innovators win until someone figures them out. Well, unless there's really truly an innovator, so they continue to innovate. They got to continue to innovate. I think
here's another one. Here's another tidbit that I read today too is Art Briles resigned from his high school job today in Texas. So there's another name that's thrown out.
That means he's going. Wait, he resigned. That means he's going to Texas Tech.
Texas Tech, because Texas Tech just fired their OC.
He's going to go to Texas Tech. There's a lot of.
I could see him at an Arizona.
I don't think so. He was a longtime high school coach in Texas. Okay.
He loves that.
Legendary high school Texas coach, like literally.
He ain't going anywhere.
Goes to college. I don't know where he worked his way through. Ends up as the head coach at Baylor. Makes that into a powerhouse. There's no way I see him going outside of Texas because he's got to get – every high school coach in Texas knows Art Briles. So when Art Briles comes in, they know him not just as it's not
hey Coach Briles, it's hey Art.
Exactly. Oh, hey Art, take a look at these guys. And Art's willing to sit down and look at them. And that's how he built Baylor. I mean, Baylor was in He's just gonna clean up his past. Baylor, it was a situation that was a bad situation that he really made into a powerhouse, So it's so interesting of where coaches go. Sometimes it doesn't, like I would say Nick Saban. Wherever Nick Saban goes, he seemed, other than I'll preface it like this, other than the NFL, everywhere he's gone in college, he's tended to have success. But when Nick Saban went on to the NFL, that didn't work out for him because it wasn't the right fit for him.
Although I do think if he had stayed a little longer in the NFL, he would have been successful.
Eventually,
he just jumped ship too soon. Maybe it was the wrong situation to be in a Miami, because I just look at the way he runs his program, the way he leads his players. He's so much more of a CEO than a coach. Now, don't get me wrong. When you see him out there, working with his DBs, he's coaching the hell out of it. But he just seems more like the business NFL type of coach than he does a college coach. I see adult men, NFL players relating to a Nick Saban more so than a college kid.
Right. The thing that makes Nick Saban great is that he runs his program as a CEO, but he's not the absent CEO that just completely delegates.
He is hands on everything. And you saw that in the week where he was down with COVID. You really saw,
he's hands on. He allows his coaches to coach, but they also know that if they don't go to his standard, he's going to be right there and say, "Hey, what are you doing?"
And he sure as hell ain't holding back, because we've seen him blast, his coaches. I mean, you saw him get all up in Lane Kiffin's ass one game, and that went viral. He ain't afraid to let it fly. He knows what he wants. He's going to hold you to a standard, and you better get it done, or you won't be there very long.
Absolutely. One of the things I think you see in football coaching that's interesting is, I can't remember the book I read this in, because I read so many books, but it sticks in my mind that people go up to the level that is their maximum failure spot or place.
Right.
Meaning, like, they move all the way up until they get to a place where it's above their head, and then they fail. And then they, a lot of times, either push through that and gain that competency, or they settle at the level of their competence. So people rise to their level of failure. Why I use Nick Saban as a good example is Nick Saban is one of the few people that went to what he would would go to what people would say was your level of failure, and recognize that place was not for him.
Right. And I need to go somewhere else because
where I know I'm going to succeed. Like, it's not, it's not something where I have to not that he couldn't, because he would eventually figure it out. But he's like, I got this figured out, and I think I can become great at this thing that I have figured out. And I don't need to push above what is my current level of competence to try to figure that out. I'm going to go where I know I'm already good. I've done certain things, and I'm going to try and perfect that. That's an unusual situation. Most people
don't do that. That's a credit
to get back to that. They keep trying to get back to that.
Right. That's a credit to who he is as a person, and being self-aware enough to say, look, I can be really, really great at this, or I can continue to strive and be, something at a different level. But I know if I just sit here, continue my process, I can be a name here. And that's what I want to do.
Exactly. It's interesting.
It sure worked. Yeah, it's worked.
It definitely worked. Basically, until he retires, he's the top dog. You might beat him. You might beat him a year here or there, but overall,
yeah, you may beat him in an individual game, but you ain't.
You may beat him in the best year. he may in the next 4 years he may only win one championship, but he's an albatross around your neck all the time. That's the bottom line. All the time. But I do think that's one thing I do think will happen is I think Gus Malzahn will find another spot after he enjoys the $21 million, puts it away, sails the world.
Does he pull a Mike Leach and move to Key West for 2 years and hangs out?
I think he got. I mean, I look at it like this. What's it going to hurt you going and hanging out with your family for 6 months, but at least, and just seeing what it's like on the other side of the lap of luck, since you have the money, what it's like to live in a lap, and then you come back refreshed, right?
And it's like what we said a lot of this year with COVID shutdowns and things like that it's given a lot of coaches and people time to kind of take a step back, slow down, reevaluate a lot of things. And we saw a lot of coaches walk away from it. Like, you know what? I don't need it. I'm enjoying this time away, I hope he does it just for his sake, probably for his wife's sake, or maybe not. I don't know,
Saban, right? If it did actually happen to Nick Saban, she would probably send them back to work.
Oh, Miss Terry, be like goodbye.
Yeah, I just like how he calls her Miss Terry.
That's the best. Well, I just love that all the kids and the players respect that. I just like when that relationship is there. I think it's awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. It really, it's unique. It is definitely unique. So, all right. I think we cover. We talked about UCLA. We talked. Did we miss what games did we miss here? Anything?
No, we hit on most of them. I'll tell you that.
What went on in the NFL? I know you watched it, and I know you were parlaying and all that kind of. What went on in the NFL yesterday?
Giants screwed me in every way, shape, or form. Came out, looked horrible. Played Daniel Jones. No reason, I think, to play him. Coming off 2 weeks with a freaking hamstring injury. Looked horrible. Ultimately gave up 5 sacks to one guy in a single game. Ridiculous. The Jets lose 40-3. They are horrific, pathetic. It's absolutely disgusting to even watch them. They had 20-something yards, in the second half total offense. Horrific. And you're talking an NFL team. And they played the Seahawks, who are, number 30th in defense, total defense, I think. And just brutal. But big win for the Eagles. Get a huge win over the Saints with Jalen Hurts playing quarterback. He rushed for over 100 yards in the game. He looked great. Kind of gave them a spark, and we'll see what that happens going forward. Washington Redskins the Washington Football Club with a big win over the 49ers, which is huge. Ultimately led by Haskins because who's our boy? Alex Smith went out with an injury, kind of hurt strained his calf or something. But they get a huge win. NFL is it's just crazy because it's literally every single week. Anybody can beat anybody. That's just the way it kind of is. That's what's so great about it. The Steelers lose again. So they're kind of on a downslide right now. Going forward, the Bills, right? Because the Bills beat the Steelers. I mean, the Bills are hot. Like, they're a hot team. It's the first time that the Patriots won't win the AFC East, and I don't even know how long, which is crazy, So NFL Sunday, man, just a classic NFL Sunday going forward. Tonight, you got a great game too in Cleveland and Baltimore. Should be a really good game. To see if the Ravens can get their stuff right as far as throwing the ball. Lamar Jackson's always got his feet and whatnot, but if they can push the ball offensively, I think they'll get a W. But I'm pulling for the Browns, man. For some reason, I just like the Browns. I like Baker Mayfield. I think he's a nice little character in the NFL that works. And they haven't won in so long, you know what I'm saying, on a steady basis. I think it's cool to see that. And I love Nick Chubb. I think he's a great running back. So we'll see tonight. Should be a good game.
How about them Cowboys?
Obviously, I left them out for a reason because they beat the Bengals, but go Cowboys. They actually have an opportunity, my friend, because their 3 remaining games are possibly all winnable games for them. So they could. Yeah, dude, the NFC East is just an absolute mess.
They could get in, is what you're saying. You're saying there's a chance.
I'm saying that another thing in regards to, we want to talk about the Washington Football Club. The Cleveland Indians of Major League Baseball will be changing their name and mascot by 2022. So 2020 year of COVID, there we go. We lose another mascot and another team. The Cleveland Indians, been around since 1914, will go away.
Yeah, it's just
the times we live in, but
it's just you're not going to be able to do it anymore. I mean, it's Indians is a kind of to me a little bit of a suspect name, and I don't know anything about when Washington was named Redskins and how the American Indians feel about it.
Well, I would think calling somebody a Redskin is way different than calling an Indian.
My point was going to be exactly.
That's what I would think. But look,
I think it's the connotation of using. First, Redskins obviously is construed as racist. First of all, but 100%. Indians is because they're not like saying someone's skin color or anything. But what it is, I think, construed as is you're taking a race or ethnicity of people and you're making them into a mascot. And I think that's more of the issue there with the Cleveland Indians. And I get it. I
don't want anybody offended. I don't want any of that stuff. So if that's what you got to do, go ahead and do it. I know some people are going to be pissed about it, but it is what it is. Just, Yeah.
I mean, look, St. John's for a long time was the I think it's just get a good mascot name. Like St. John's was the Red Men, okay? And they obviously
really?
Yeah, St. John's basketball team was called the Red Men. And then I
thought it was the Red Storm.
Well, they are the Red Storm now, but they changed.
Oh, that's the change that happened?
They changed that in the 90s. When Chris Mullen played for them, they were called the St. John's Redmen. And yes, so they changed that obviously because of racial connotation with for that. And then they called it the Red Storm. And like my whole thing was like, what is the Red Storm? You know what I mean? St. John's is in New York City. Get a relevant mascot name.
They were just trying to keep it on par.
I get it, but they didn't put thought into it. The one thing I like about people got all over to Washington for calling them the Washington football team. I actually like the fact that they said, you know what? We don't have anything right now that we like. And instead of just coming up with a mascot that we're going to have for the next 30 years that we don't like,
they were willing to take the time
and do. And I think Cleveland should do the same thing. Take the time and get a relevant.
Well, I believe that's why they said, 2022, give themselves a whole season. I know they eliminated the use of the Chief Wahoo logo last year. So they've started the process a little bit, but, hopefully they come up with something good. I think, like Washington and the NFL will come up with something. There's been, some leaks of some stuff going on. But, it is what it is. You see a lot of high school programs that were around doing the same thing, man. I mean, they're all making, they're all making changes. And Chris, that's hilarious because, they still run out, Chief whoever in full headdress on a horse and, stabbing a spear into the center of the field. And they're there doing the chop and all this stuff. And nobody says anything.
Well, so I think
the difference is that they use the Seminole, which is an individualized tribe.
Correct. And I don't know if one day that could go by the boards, but what I do think is that possibly it's that. Yeah, I think you're right.
And I believe, like I said, I think the area itself, you know what I mean? The Seminole tribe is local.
Right.
Exactly. So I think the fact, they put them to them, it's not demeaning or anything like that. It's actually pumping them, up. It's putting them in a positive manner rather than, something else.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and we'll see how that plays out over the years. But I think that is kind of a different scenario. The Atlanta Braves are still called the Braves, correct?
Yes.
Braves is also is that a honoring them more? I mean, we sing when they say "and the land of the brave" when that song came up. Is that in the home of the how's it go?
I don't know if that's in the same context.
Or is that of brave? That'd be a good thing to look up. Is that meaning brave people, or home of the brave meaning home of the American Indian? You know what I mean?
I wouldn't think it's that because we weren't exactly a fan of the American Indian.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that the person that wrote it wasn't honoring them. Let's look it up. I'm sure there's a million things on it. That what does home of the brave means? Here we go. What does it mean? So the bravery of those who, let's see. I was always curious about that. It could be so. This question is, I don't know. How come we can't get a clear answer quickly? Come on, Google. What's the point of you?
Hey, Google was down this morning. It was like things were, oh my God.
Crazy stuff was going on.
It's like the world was ending.
Oh. Okay, well, thank goodness I have the things that I need. Let's see. What are you doing? You here? You ready for your segment in a few minutes? All right, why don't you take a seat over there? We'll bring you on.
Let me just get my tissue.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not getting a clear answer on this. Some of it says
we'll have to do a little research and then come back.
I think we have to come back to this one because I don't know. I'm not able to get a clear answer really quickly. But it is not a slam dunk thing of bravery, meaning fought because of bravery. Some people say that's what it is, but it's more than just that. I'm curious myself. So, Troy, we might have a special guest again today. Coach Depascale for his. He said he wants his daily segment.
He's in.
What was the thing we said we were going to do this time? Troy's got a little.
I thought you were going to say Christmas music.
Oh, Christmas music. All right, let's wipe that. Get your chair. Okay.
I'm not big on Christmas music. I don't even know anything. So somebody's going to have to. I'm just going to have to go original with it.
I think we're going to have to go original with it. I guess what we go top 3 Christmas songs.
Or we could just take Troy's top 3 since he's the guru.
All right, Troy. It's going to be a brief segment today. We'll see. I'll come up with my 3 favorites alongside you, and then we'll get back to football. All right. So Troy, you'll go first today.
Oh yay!
Your third rated number 3 favorite Christmas song. Number 3.
Jingle bells.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I think I'll go with "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas."
That's my 3.
That's your 3. Do you have? And you're welcome to chime in since you didn't. If you don't want to give your 3, you don't have to, Coach D.
I'll keep it to myself.
You can relate. So we'll cover as soon as we get to 2. We'll come back to you, Coach D. You'll be the anchor like today. Troy will be the leadoff. All right, Troy, number 2.
Have a holly jolly
Christmas.
Jolly Christmas.
That's impressive.
I'm going to give you one. I don't know if you know this one. Run, Rudolph, run. Wait. No.
That's the one from
Run, Rudolph. Chuck Berry. Run, Rudolph.
Chuck Berry's a G.
Chuck Berry's great. Ooh,
I'm a fan.
The guitar. The guitar. Okay. Coach D, do you have a number 2?
I'm going to go Frosty.
Frosty the Snowman. All right, good. All right, number 1, Troy.
That was mine.
Frosty the Snowman's number 1? Then you're going to have to sing it. Let's go sing it. That's your number.
Frosty
Get
the
in the-
Snowman. I can't sing.
Oh, okay. We trailed off, but that's okay.
Okay, you don't have to sing the whole thing. All right, you're good. That is Troy's number 1. I think. Let me think for myself. Christmas. I'm going to give you some also-rans after. So how about I said have yourself a merry little Christmas. Did I? What didn't? What's
You didn't do.
what did I do?
You didn't do.
How about Grandma got run over by a reindeer?
That's a great one. That's a great
Remember
one.
that one, Troy?
No.
Grandma got run over by a reindeer. Walking home from our house Christmas Eve. You can say there's no such thing as Santa. But as for me and Grandma, we believe. All right. Silent Night. Chris came in with a legendary one.
Throwback.
Yes. Well, Chris went to Paramus Catholic, so he definitely.
I'm sure they sang that in their choir uniform.
With Silent Night, Holy Night. Definitely. Good for him.
Yeah, they were probably singing that, in their little choir uniforms and all that good stuff.
That's it. That's why he's a good man.
That's it.
Troy, thank you very much. You want to show everybody your. Troy is. Here he is, superhero Troy.
That a boy, Troy.
That's it. Oh man! All right. So, Troy, you're done. Thank you for the segment. Go up with Mom. We're gonna move on to our next segment. You're done, okay? Go with Mom, and so we can finish the show. Good. Chris is great. All right. All right. Oh, here we go. Farina's back. Anything with Michael Bublé.
There's some character. We got some characters, dude.
Oh yeah. Well, Chris and Dan are definitely our number one and number 2 fans. Chris leads the way. There's no doubt about it. And come in with great comments.
Appreciate it.
Michael Bublé is good. I mean, I'm sure Coach Farina has Michael Bublé's greatest hits alongside with his. You know what else I did like, actually? Now that I think about it, there's 2 albums, but the better one was Mariah Carey when she had.
Yep, I knew you were going with that.
Yeah, Mariah Carey when she was in her heyday was definitely was a fan. Definitely was a fan. I think Derek Jeter agreed with me back then too. Ruined one of his baseball seasons. If you remember,
he learned quick after that.
Yeah, he's like, you know what?
He's like, you know what? I ain't dealing with this. I think I'm just gonna play ball.
Yeah, I'm gonna play ball. So
Smart man.
That this is great. Oh, Chris says he wakes. Oh, he must work and during the like a night shift, and then he comes in, and here we are to laugh a little about. That's great. That's
So
great.
like we're his morning drive radio.
Morning, yeah, that's right. Morning drive radio. And then Christina Aguilera had a nice little. Oh yes, of course. Frida, of course she did.
Of course she did, and she signed the contract too before she walked through the door.
But I think if you go through Derek Jeter's years, I think one of his lowest batting averages was that year. I mean, look, he was always great, but that was his
one of his lowest.
Yeah,
that
might have been a juggle that was a little just like
too much.
She's way more famous than at the time than even he was. Now they're on the same level, I would guess. But back then, although she sold so many records, Do you know who Mariah Carey is, Troy?
He's Derek Jeter.
What's that?
I said he's Derek Jeter.
He is Derek Jeter, man.
Like he's just on a whole nother level.
I mean, and he married a supermodel, so
one of the few to ever just do what he did, and that was it. Like, just stayed out of trouble, as a New York Yankee. Like, are you kidding me? Like, just
impressive.
And played at a high level. He was never
got married until he retired.
Like, he was like, you know what? This is first. Then when I finish, all right, well, maybe I'll get
I feel like he just had that. Like, how did someone have the foresight to go through his career and avoid so many of those things that
outside distractions that usually screw up people's careers?
Yeah. And then he knows he's getting.
He was just that laser focus. This is what I'm going to do. This is my process. Nothing's going to get in the way. Here we go. Good for him. Hi, Troy.
Troy, we're gonna get your own show. Okay. All right. Take a break, bud.
But all right, man.
All right. So let's see. Do we miss anything for today?
I think we touched on all the topics that need be so.
Any movement in high school? Not much movement this weekend in high school. I don't think. I was expecting maybe the Shore Sports Network to come out with their.
I think this week is when they're doing their stuff that I saw. I think they did I saw a tweet today, I think, about the final statistics of the Shore Conference, and I think they'll come out sometime this week with that stuff.
Perfect. All right, well, we'll cover it when it comes. I think that's a good – it's amazing when an hour and a half feels like a short show.
I know. It's crazy for us, but all right, boys, big one tonight. You got Baltimore and the Browns tonight. Let's see what happens.
What's your pick?
My heart wants to go with the Browns, but I just think for some reason Baltimore is going to be able to put it all together. But I'm going with my heart. Browns.
You're going to go Browns?
I believe the Browns are I think the Browns are getting 3.
Who's the QB for the Ravens?
Lamar Jackson.
I'm saying he's back. He's all good. I'm going Ravens.
Yes. It's Baltimore -3. So
I'm going Ravens.
It's in Cleveland. Not that matters, but it's Cleveland. All right, man. We'll see what happens.
You got it.
Tomorrow. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.